Right, here we go. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Out of Nowhere. Well, my guest today is Brad Olson. It's been last time Brad was on the show, it's quite a while ago. We did discuss a bit about the Antarctica, but he's wrote a new book now called Secrets of the Antarctica. So we will be talking about that today. Now then, Brad, I know it's a while ago since you've been on the show. What originally drew you to the Antarctica as a subject, and why did it deserve an entire book?
Well, it was about a little over about 8 years ago. I was in San Francisco in a rent-controlled apartment, meaning you don't have to pay market rate, which is about 3 times more in a very expensive city. And the building sold, and the new owner decided, oh, I'm going to take Brad's apartment. So I basically got evicted, no fault of my own. I didn't do anything wrong, just happened to have rent control in a building that got sold. And so I got a little bit of a payout. And then I thought, this might be a good opportunity to travel to South America and Antarctica, the 2 continents I'd never been to before. And so turned a little lemons into lemonade and went down there. And I've always wanted to see Antarctica and had the opportunity 7 years ago to get on a sailboat and for 26 days live on that boat. And we went all the way down to the Antarctic Peninsula. And it was really amazing trip. I mean, it was difficult. It was the hardest trip I ever made, crossing the Drake Passage, which are the stormiest seas in the world. Now, of course, I got violently seasick, but you know, you get over it. We got down there and got our sea legs on and didn't get seasick anytime after that. I think I lost about 25 pounds on that trip too. It was quite remarkable.
It sounds like it as well. It's a bit of a long stint to go.
Yeah, it was 92 hours, so just under 4 days to get there. And then on the way back, it was about 6 days because we were going against the winds. We had to tack back and forth on the sailboat a little bit more.
Oh my God.
As well as everybody on the boat wanted to see Cape Horn, which is the southern tip of South America. And it's a pyramid-shaped island. It was worth seeing. But this is a picture when we first started pulling into the Palmer Peninsula on the sailboat.
Oh God.
It was pretty impressive, I have to tell you. It was a trip of a lifetime. I don't know if I'd want to go on a sailboat to go back there. Maybe next time, if I do get an opportunity to go back with a film crew, it would not be on a sailboat. It would be to fly in.
Oh, yeah, exactly. For the listeners who haven't read the book yet, what do you mean by the secret Antarctica? What's being hidden or overlooked?
Sure. Well, that's the name of the book. So, of course, I have to reveal a bunch of the secrets, and I'll just show you the table of contents because that pretty much reveals the secrets right there. It goes from the introduction into the ice continent, just basically describing the lay of the land. Then I go into the lost land and the Patagonia giants. The map of the ancient sea kings, that is all the old maps before the continent was discovered, Bob. You have maps in the age of exploration, centuries before it was discovered, that show Antarctica on the maps. Then you have the Nazis in Antarctica, Admiral Byrd, Operation High Jump chapter, what really happened in High Jump, which was depicted on the cover of the book.
Oh, yeah. Great.
Basically, UFOs attacking our ships and planes.
On front of the book's amazing.
Yeah, really great cover. Hollow Earth at the South Pole. So that's a big secret. Antarctica ETs, and then the black goo. So that was discovered on an island called South Thule Island. It was being studied by the Argentinians. And then the British came in for the Falkland Wars to take it over. And they did. and the actual terms of surrender were signed on a ship right off of South Thule Island, where the 8 scientists from Argentina just surrendered. So I make a case, and this was also with some of the speakers at the Bases Project, including David Griffin and Harold Kotzvela, who also spoke there, and Miles Johnston. And we talked about why the British made such a big showing to capture the Falkland Islands and the South Sandwich Islands, in which Southern Thule Island was a part of. And at this conference that I spoke at in December in the UK, we had a couple of super soldiers from the Nachtwaffen, the German secret space program. And that also is one of the secrets of Antarctica, that they've been operating there since pre-World War II, but then they never left, Bob. And I have maps from the old, the Cold War era that shows West German flag. They still stayed in the same location. But some of these super soldiers who were on the panel, we started talking about the black goo. Penny Bradley and Drago Reed, both of them said that when they were in these programs, that they had ingested the black goo. And it was brought back to the UK in the 1980s so they could use it to enhance their soldiers. And so what it does, according to these two, is it enhances your stamina. So it makes strong guys even stronger and able to withstand really extreme temperatures, and also enclosed and compartmentalized, pressurized environments like submarines or going off planet. And so the UK was doing this with the black goo, and then it was also in the German super soldier program too. So that's what the black goo is all about. And that's kind of one of the biggest secrets of Antarctica, because that island is just only a few hundred miles from the Antarctica coast.
Some ancient civilizations appear to have advanced knowledge of geography, possibly beyond what we're told. Who might have known about Antarctica and how?
You mean in modern times or
ancient times?
In ancient times too. Well, and well, that's really best illustrated in the chapter on the map of the ancient sea kings, most especially the Piri Reis map, which I bet you're familiar with, this old Turkish admiral map from 1513 that shows the Antarctica coastline on the bottom. But what's interesting is that the coastline on the Piri Reis map, it shows it without the ice. And indeed, this is called today the Fitchner ice shelf, where you see those islands.
Right, yeah.
It's all covered with ice, but they've done sonar scan of the Fitchner ice shelf and found out there really are those islands under the ice. So how did the Piri Reis and the source maps that he drew this from, how did they know that? That's the big mystery here.
Yeah, it is definitely a bit of a mix. When you talk about Antarctica as well, what role played in ancient global civilization or even lost civilization? Why or why not places like that existed?
Well, my presumption with these maps that show Antarctica without the ice is that it might have been a more habitable area than it is today. So at least during the time called the Younger Dryas, which was a period of warming only about 1,500 years ago, that it could have been free of ice, or at least around the coastline at that time. But certainly before the last ice age, it would have been a totally different environment as well. So do these maps date all the way back to 16,000 years ago? That would be pretty extraordinary. But it does say in the liner notes along the Piri-Reis map that they're drawn from other source maps that come all the way back from the time of the Library of Alexandria. So there's these source notes here on the side of the Piri-Reis map. Yeah. That say that it was that he copied it from other maps. And those go, and also the Ptolemy map, which was one of the oldest maps showing the whole world. And here it is. And of course, on the very bottom, you have a landmass. So another reference to Antarctica. But the Ptolemy map from 150 CE shows a large continent linking Africa and Asia. And Ptolemy lived in Alexandria, Egypt. So this might be the source map that Piri-Reis was referring to that came out of the Library of Alexandria. Of course, the Library of Alexandria burned down and there's nothing left of it. So, but this map did survive, as well as some other content from that source map that the Piri-Reis map refers to. Even Christopher Columbus says he used a lot of source maps before he went on his voyage across the Atlantic. So they were sharing maps, and maps were the most valuable prized commodity. If, say, a pirate were to take over a ship, they would go right to the captain's quarters, break into his lockbox, and steal his maps. I mean, to them, it was more valuable than the treasure or gold that they could take, because maps were the way to get around. You needed maps to basically show you the routes through all the ways to get into the Pacific, for example, like the Straits of Magellan, which I had to cross going to and from Terra del Fuego to catch the sailboat to go to Antarctica. So to understand these sea routes, these maps of the ancient sea kings used, is to really have that world perspective, which to them was very valuable information to have.
What's the connection between Antarctica and legends like the Atlantis or other lost worlds?
Oh, and there is a connection. That's one of the secrets of Antarctica, that the certain areas, especially in Western Antarctica. So Antarctica is really two continental land masses that have collided together, I would say probably during the last ice age, because if we were to look at what Antarctica looks like, here's a good map that shows, the west part is here. That's a very new portion of Antarctica, and it's known to have traveled down along the mid-Atlantic ridge and basically collided into West Antarctica, which is much, much older. And so you can see on this map what Antarctica would look like without the ice, this being Western Antarctica, and this is the plateau of Eastern Antarctica, that if there is signs of Atlantis, and Dr. Michael Sala, before my trip, I said, what should I be looking out for when I'm on the Palmer Peninsula? And he said, well, here's some GPS coordinates. And he gave me some areas to look at that show what appeared to be a grid, a city grid under the ice. And that's really remarkable when you think about it, that Mother Nature does not create perfect right angles. And so when you look at some of these, and here's one, it's kind of blurry, but that's the best resolution I could get. You can see the kind of symmetrical outline of what I think is a city grid, what to me very much appears in a city grid. And it was even in your UK newspaper, the Daily Sun.
Oh, yes.
Some of these city grid formations, even a pyramid on the top that they're scanning under the ice and picking up these city-like grid formations. So I think that's the best evidence that if it wasn't Atlantis itself, because I think Atlantis was a whole colony or a whole empire with several colonies around the world. This one in Atlantis just being one of several colonies, because there's also pretty good evidence that it was in the Caribbean, that it was in the Mediterranean, then off the Pillars of Hercules in the Atlantic as well.
Exactly. Why has Antarctica been so heavily restricted compared to other continents? What stands out to you about the Antarctic Treaty?
Yeah. Well, this is where it goes pretty deep, because the Antarctica Treaty was started right after Admiral Byrd's final trip, fifth and final mission to Antarctica, which is called Operation Deep Freeze, after a high jump. And he comes back and he starts talking about the land beyond the poles. He says this in several interviews, and he starts talking too much. And he basically is dead of a heart attack about a year after Operation Deep Freeze. And here's a guy who is in extraordinarily good shape, dies at 68 in his bed of a heart attack.
Oh,
Maybe got hit by a heart attack gun because they thought he was going to talk too much.
exactly.
You know, he did talk on the way back from high jump and said that there would be a new enemy that could fly pole to pole at incredible speeds. So when he starts talking again about the land beyond the poles, which was described in his diary as the hole in the ice and a whole world under the polar plateau in eastern Antarctica, perhaps the powers that be says, all right, you've said enough. And so he very well could have discovered, or what he describes in his diary as, an advanced civilization living under the ice. And so to this day, there's a big no-fly zone over that area. So your question is about the Antarctica Treaty, which set up those no-fly zones, which set up this area that you can go to and travel, which I did, but then there are other regions that you cannot go to. And that's what's so interesting here, is that what is so worthy of protection that you have to have no fly zone and no go zones.
Yeah,
so I remember reading an article in Nexus magazine. There were these two women from Australia that were cross-country skiing across the polar plateau, and it must have been that they veered off in one direction that they weren't supposed to go, because U.S. Navy SEALs landed a helicopter right in front of them, said, "You aren't going any further, ladies. Get in the helicopter." God. They tried to protest, and to no avail. Their trip ended there. So some people do get picked up if they attempt to go places they're not supposed to go. So there are definitely things we're not supposed to see down there. And I find that really disheartening, because according to the Antarctica Treaty, that it's supposed to be a biosphere reserve, sort of like a national park, but owned by everybody in the world, right? Or controlled by everybody. But they make it so there are areas you cannot go. And so in the Antarctica Treaty, it does even say that tourism would be allowed, that people would be able to travel there, and especially open to scientists. And so what I was able to do is go to several of the bases that are operated by different countries of the world. We first landed in King George Island, went to the Arktowski base, and across the bay, you could see the lights from the Chinese base, and a whole bunch of other ones along the Palmer Peninsula. Ukrainian base we went to that was donated by the Brits. We went to Port Lockroy, which is a museum that was a spy station during Operation Tamerlane, that they were spying on the Nazis during World War II. And we went to a Argentinian base and Chilean base. And everywhere I went, I was asking the same questions, which is, Have you heard of these big motherships below the ice? The answer would come back no. Have you heard of any antediluvian civilizations like the pyramids poking through? The answer was always no. And I don't think they were trying to hide anything from me. They just did not know. And yet, most of the researchers we met on the bases, they're just young, out of college students, and they're there to study penguins or the ice fish. They just didn't have that kind of top secret intel. But
Right.
what I did find is that there were these no-fly zones and no-go zones. And also at one of the Argentinian bases, they did have a UFO sighting at another base. And that was all the chatter among the personnel in the Argentinian bases. They were all talking to each other and said they saw these orb-like or UFO lit up lights over the Belgrano 2 base just a few weeks before we got down there.
Yeah. What about Operation High Jump? Comes up often in discussion about Antarctica. What was it officially, and what do you think was really going on?
Yeah. So Admiral Byrd was headed up Operation High Jump. And keep in mind, he was very decorated, very popular Navy admiral, but he was also a pilot and was the very first aviator to fly over the South Pole. And I think he saw the hole in the ice. And he went back during Operation High Jump, one of the first flights. And that's when he had 3 hours of missing time. And you don't have 3 hours to just circle around and around if your radio goes out. So he obviously put the plane down, and in his diary, he describes going into the hole in the ice, and 2 UFOs with Nazi insignia took control of his plane and landed him. And that's when he was summoned to meet with the master. And so what happened after High Jump? He was allowed to leave. This is still during the first opening week or two of Operation High Jump. The same flight UFOs called Flugelrods escorted him out. Last thing they said to him over the radio was Auf Wiedersehen, which is goodbye in German. Then he flew back to Little America, where he was seen as visibly shaken and would not record his flight, which was very uncharacteristic of Admiral Byrd. He was always by the book and wanted to record everything. But he encountered something that really rattled his cage. And so as an admiral, as a Navy man, he was still ordered and directed to follow through with the objectives of Operation High Jump. Now, they say it was to do training in cold weather, and they never really did any training. All the operation groups were on a military mission. And that's what he said in a press conference before he left, that Operation High Jump was military in nature. And keep in mind the timing of High Jump, which was the first Antarctica summer. The fastest our Navy could put together a military force was when they got down there in late November 1946. And by early February, they had called the whole thing off. They were supposed to stay down there for another 4 to 6 months, but left in a hurry because something happened. And Admiral Byrd, as a Navy man, he didn't think that they would attack. He met them in that encounter under the ice, came back, didn't want to talk about it, but he was still ordered. And their mission was to capture the Honeydew craft or whatever UFOs that the Germans had brought down there. And they were also ordered to take out those bases. And they were trying to do that. They started to do that. And then the Battle of High Jump was when the UFOs came up out of the water, out of caves and holes in the ice, and attacked the Armada. There was no shooting down those disc craft. They had some kind of force field. They were able to dive back down into the water and disappear. The whole battle only took about 20 minutes. And rather than knocking out the whole fleet, they took out one boat and just about all the airplanes. And so that was enough to tell Admiral Byrd and Nimitz, who was also on one of the ships, and Admiral Cruzen, that they're going to call it off, that they had to head back. And when they were in port in Chile resupplying, that's when he met with some reporters and said that we would be facing an enemy that could fly pole to pole at incredible speeds. And that's exactly what these discs have the capability of doing.
Why do you think so many nations rushed to the Antarctica shortly after World War II?
Well, there were other countries involved in Operation High Jump, which was led by the Americans. And then only a couple years later, you have all these UFOs that are swarming over the Capitol. And at the time, people screamed, "Oh, alien invasion." Well, nowadays, there was no invasion. It was nowadays is largely regarded as those craft that could fly pole to pole at incredible speeds, that it was the Antarctica Germans who were just saying, look, we can fly over your most sensitive Capitol, Pentagon, White House, and you can't do anything about it. And so this was in the final months of Harry Truman's administration.
Oh, God.
And he basically, and this is in Laura Eisenhower's book called Awakening the Truth Frequency, that basically Eisenhower capitulated and at the very least signed a truce with the Antarctica Germans. Some say he capitulated and actually surrendered. But whatever the case was, they quickly made another trip down there, which was Operation Deep Freeze. And according to Captain Mark Richards in his Operation High Jump book, he said that he's going on military intelligence, that the Germans decided, well, okay, you want a UFO really, really bad? Well, we'll give you one, but probably an inferior one. And they took it back to the US. And then shortly thereafter, Admiral Byrd dies and the Antarctica Treaty starts to become formulated in 1958 and fully ratified in 1961. And that treaty is still in effect to this day. And so you just have to ask, what did they know back then? And why did they create all these no-fly and no-go zones on the continent? And what are they trying to hide? Well, I think it's the Antarctica Germans who just said, there are areas we don't want you to, no one is allowed to come and go, only us. And you just have to leave us alone.
Something I'm going to ask you about that as well. Is Antarctica hiding evidence of much warmer, possibly habitual past?
Oh, of course, it was much warmer in the past, and this was this is also evident with the Falcon Scott, the first British to attempt to make it to the South Pole. He only missed by 35 days behind the Norwegian Amundsen, but they were also picking up fossils from a place called Mount Buckley, where they had encountered what could only have grown in Antarctica when it was a hot, steaming, sweltering jungle, to create fossils of ferns, and also dinosaur bones have been found there when Antarctica was a much different climate than it is today.
Oh, I bet it does as well. I'm going to say that Antarctica often comes up in UFOs and underground base discussions. What credible or what's likely is a myth?
Well, I have a whole chapter in here about the evidence for ETs being in Antarctica. And I start with the quote from Ronald Reagan in 1987 at the UN General Assembly when he says, "I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world."
Yes, I
Remember
remember
that
that.
one? And yet
Yeah,
I ask you, is it not an alien force already among us? Interesting choice of words. What could be more alien to the universal aspirations of our people than a war and the threat of war? And so when you look at all the data points, including what are these craft that are found on Google Earth above the ice? I mean, that one,
yeah,
some
I can
kind of
see that.
machinery right there, and even bigger ones. And these kind of things like the entrance to an underground base, very large, that you could fly an airplane into. And then I think this is really the smoking gun, that this is one of the three bases of, or one of the three motherships, Nina Pinter Santa Maria. This is a German base. This is called the Conan base. And in 2013, they were excavating this thing. And I love it when I can get confirming data points. And in this case, the Farsight Institute used the GPS coordinates to the Conan base, and they looked at it and they said, there's some kind of massive ship under the ice there. They said it was built for giants because the ceilings were very, very high. It had been crashed a long, long time ago. It was defunct and couldn't fly anymore. But enough for them to reach a conclusion that this is alien technology locked in the ice of Antarctica.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, being around that area, do you think Antarctica could still be actively used to secret research or operations today?
Well, it is being used for secret operations today. That's why you're forbidden to go to certain areas. But even you can go to the South Pole, and there's an area there where you can go camping. You can basically fly in, but you must fly in at a certain altitude, and you cannot fly over the no-fly zone when you're coming into South America. And that is where this big giant no-fly zone is located. And so when you think, well, why can't you fly over this area? It's called the Clean Air Sector. And it's right over the South Pole, just to the right of it. And it also happens to be exactly where the whistleblower, Brian S., said he did a mission to emergency evacuate someone off the continent. And it was exactly where this clean air sector was. And I had the great opportunity of talking to him, and I interviewed him for my latest book. This is Brian S.'s map. You can see the hole in the ice that he indicated to Linda Moulton Howe.
Yeah, yeah.
And that is exactly where this clean air sector is.
All right.
So he flies out of the South Pole, and the direct route to the Davis base was over this clean air sector, which says overflight below 2,000 and 6,000 meters, and overland transit is prohibited. So you can't even cross-country ski or walk over it. And this is a blow-up of the South Pole Station. There's that clean air sector. And I asked him, well, did you see any instruments or buildings? He said, no, it's just a cover. It's just a cover for protecting the hole in the ice, which is about 50 miles away from the South Pole. So even people who have been stationed there, they would have no knowledge of it. You can't see it. And it's far enough away that you wouldn't be able to walk there or or even snowmobile unless you had permission. So it was interesting that in 2013, Prince Harry,
I'm
he
going to
goes
say,
down there with a bunch of his army buddies, and they go cross-country skiing out into the clean air sector. They had some kind of permission. They must have had permission to go see the hole in the ice. Not only that, but Brian S. told me that there's a road that corkscrews down into it. So maybe Prince Harry and his buddies got the opportunity to just ski down the road and then cross-country ski back up.
strange, isn't it? How he could be able to do that, but not a lot other people couldn't do it.
Not other people. No way.
Right. Where do you think humanity is drawn to forbidden or hidden places like Antarctica?
Well, aren't we drawn to any forbidden place? I mean, here in Nevada, where I'm at, not far away is the Nellis Air Force Base. And within that is Groom Lake, Area 51, S4. I mean, this is the ultimate in forbidden bases. It's the secret that everybody knows about, right? Just like down in Antarctica, the NSA, the No Such Agency, as they got the nickname because they denied their own existence until the 1980s. But the NSA has an unmarked building at McMurdo, and it's the secret that everybody knows about. But nobody can talk about it because it's still considered top secret.
It's bonkers, isn't it?
I know. Yeah.
Dragons just asked a question here when he talked about it where you live. Brad, what are your thoughts on Area 51?
Well, it definitely exists. And Area 51 is just a segment or a sector on a military map, because there's also Area 54 that Charles Hall said that he was stationed at near Indian Springs, only about 50 miles away, that he encountered the Tall Whites, which is an old legacy base that's been there for a very, very long time. So it could be that this whole area was cordoned off by the military after World War II when they made contact with the Tall Whites and gave them the protection, much like perhaps the Nazis or Antarctica ETs are afforded with the Antarctica Treaty. So you can't go to Area 51, of course.
That's
if
right.
you just walk over the line, you'll be arrested and pretty well mistreated. They'll lay you on your stomach for several hours by the Wackenhut security force, who will detain you. And then the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office will be called, and it'll take them several hours to get there. And then you'll be put under arrest, and you'll be taken to the county seat of Lincoln County, Pinochet. I've known some people who have tempted fate and just stepped over the line, and that's all it takes for them to detain you and then arrest you. So have I had experiences there? Well, I've done a couple night watches in Rachel, Nevada, which is about as close as you can get. And it's along Nevada Highway 375, just about 2 hours north of Las Vegas. And in Rachel, Nevada, there's a little alien, and there's a gift store, and you can get a lunch or drink a beer at the bar, and then stay up all night. And we've done that. We've tried to do night watches. I have not personally seen anything myself, but there was one guy in our group one night who tried to stay up all night, and he said late at night, around 3 a.m, he saw something come flying up out of the area of Area 51. Could have been a drone, could have been an experimental craft. Unfortunately, he didn't have a good enough camera to catch it on film. So we just had to go by what he told us the next day. But a lot of people go there and try to spot things. And some people that live in Rachel, Nevada say, oh, yeah, we see them pretty regularly. Some things flying around there that we can't identify.
Yeah, it's bound to be.
Yeah.
What part of your research challenges your own beliefs the most about Antarctica?
Well, that really has to do with the inner Earth concept and what several different witnesses have said about going into this area under the ice or even through a portal or an entrance to inner Earth. And I still can't really wrap my head around this idea of an inner sun, which is reported on even in the Anunnaki Society. These are documents that were acquired by the Soviet Union after the war.
Right,
And
yeah.
it's got the inner sun. And I just don't
Yeah.
know what to make of it. How can we rationalize that not
And it
only
is
is,
sun.
portions of the earth hollow, but how could it be that there could be this inner sun that also illuminates the world in there? And it's called the Empire, the land of the advanced races. You got Shambhala as a city,
Oh,
but
yeah.
entrances at the North and the South Pole as well. So that's what really challenges my beliefs, Bob.
I'm going to say, what do you hope readers walk away from understanding differently after reading Secret Antarctica?
Well, you'll come away with these maps and images and Google Earth screenshots, but also a description of many of these secrets of Antarctica that we've been talking about on the show today. So I'm just kind of giving a general description of some of the bigger ones, but there are so many. We would need many hours to talk about all the details of this book and all the secrets of Antarctica that I've drug up to include in this book.
What questions about Antarctica still keep you up all night?
Well, I actually sleep pretty well at night, but what really gets me is when different researchers go down there. And there was just a news story that broke a day or two ago that some guy who was in Antarctica and had his own Starlink hookup was trying to do a live feed, and they basically, whoever they is, probably the NSA, just says, nope, you're not allowed to do live net casting from Antarctica. And his account was suspended, and he's not allowed to report on anything down there. So the secrecy remains to this day, and I wish that would end. And so if there was anything that really bothered me about it, is the fact that they're still trying to cover this up. And look, we're on the verge of a worldwide disclosure of the extraterrestrial presence. Apparently, Donald Trump even has a speech that's ready to go. And they're just waiting for the opportune moment. Sometime this year, he's going to give a speech which basically says, yeah, we're among extraterrestrials. We have been for a long time, and we've been backward engineering their technology. And that's why we had to keep this all top secret. I can only hope that this will then extend to Antarctica, and that maybe they will allow researchers like me to go back down there and look into some of these more unique locations, because I know where to go.
When you talk about Antarctica, who actually owns that land then?
Well, nobody does. That's the thing. According to the Antarctica Treaty, it is just a world biosphere park that really belongs to all citizens of the earth. But certainly the National Science Foundation in the US calls the shots. So they're able to yay or nay deny permits to go further abroad.
And that's the main thing, permits.
Yes.
If you don't get did you have to get a permit to go up there then?
Well, we had to check in with the Argentinian Navy the day before we set sail. And we had to submit our itinerary where we thought we were going to go to. And we all had to submit our passports. And then we went over to the passport control office where the cruise ships come in Ushuaia, Argentina. And this was really strange. After being stamped into Argentina to get to Ushuaia, we got stamped out of Argentina, but not stamped into anywhere else for 26 days. We're kind of like in no man's land.
How strange is that?
Yeah, but then when we got back to Ushuaia, we got stamped back into Argentina. So it was like 26 days of missing time on our passports.
Yeah, exactly. Missing time. How strange is that? You know, when you talk to these people who are on these bases up there, how many bases are there at Antarctica then?
54 nations have a presence in one way or another. Some bases are much larger than others. Some countries like the US have several bases. So does China, so does Russia, so does the UK, so does Norway.
What about
Argentina.
China?
China has several bases. So it's kind of, it determines how much money each country is appropriating for their Antarctica stations, because it is very expensive to operate a base down there, especially year round. In the winter, which is right now is the opposite, they're in their summer. But in the wintertime, in only a couple months from now, there'll only be 1,000 people on the whole continent. And it's the 5th largest continent of the world. So you don't really get the impression that we're an overpopulated planet when you go to the 5th largest continent. There's only 1,000 people that live there in the winter.
How cold does it get down there?
Oh, it's freezing. It's frigid. On the surface, and it sets records. Usually at the Vostok station, the Russian station, will come in as the lowest temperature in the world sometimes. And but that's on the surface. That's where the winds are blowing, where the snowstorms can occur, and where it gets really, really cold. But as I mentioned in my presentations, Antarctica is the most volcanically active continent in the world. So you have the propensity for these large under ice domes with geothermal heat to be quite pleasant. You can walk around in a t-shirt and not be cold because it's protected from the cold and the wind underneath the ice there.
There's a question here, quite a big one. If it would be possible for the real sun to exist in the earth, but we constantly see orbs of light, some tiny, some UFO size, a massive ball of EM energy could mimic a sun. Remember, aliens deceive.
Yeah. Well, that's a very good point, Ricky Allen, because I still can't wrap my head around it. So I'm looking at all kind of theories about what could be that energy source or what could be the light source of inner Earth. But I've heard that time and time again, that there's some kind of illumination once you get in there. And so, yeah, mimic a sun, sure. An alien deceptive device.
But
I'm totally open to that. That's a pretty good explanation.
Yeah, it is, yeah. But they're always on about a second sun appearing soon in our Earth.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's just like disclosure. It could be very imminent. And I think it's going to change everything when it does. And we might change our calendars to year 0, the first year of disclosure, because it really has the potential to change everything from free energy being released to being able to clean up our oceans, desalinization plants, and technology beyond our wildest dreams could be also the byproduct of disclosure.
Yeah, but free energy would be a great thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, really great.
But I don't think the governments would ever let us have that.
No, not when there's still oil companies and big money in the world to be derived from it. Energy is the number one industry on the planet. So free energy would just collapse the goal. Yeah, all the
them years
coal.
ago, Tesla had a theory about that, didn't he?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But they didn't want him to do that then.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I can give you free energy all the way around the world.
Yeah, called the world system. I outlined that in my book called Beyond Esoteric, which if any of your listeners want to pick up a copy of Secrets of Antarctica or my esoteric series of books or any books that I wrote, I can sign copies for people if they go to cccpublishing.com. And that's the best place to pick up a signed copy.
Wonderful. Have you got anything planned for the future then?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm working on my 12th book, which is called Underwater Archaeology, but it'll take me about 2 more years to finish that up. I'm doing a whole bunch of interviews and promotion for this right now. So,
Yes.
And I'm speaking at a lot of conferences. So if people want to try to catch up with me at one of my conferences, you can go to bradolson.com, just as my name is spelled. And that has a link to all my upcoming conferences. So I'll be coming back to Europe twice this year in May for the Ultimate UFO Conference in Germany, where I'm going to be giving my Antarctica talk. Yeah. And then the Bosnian Pyramid Conference in June with Dr. Sam Osmanovich, and Billy Carson is a speaker there. And
Billy. Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be fun. Got a big year coming up.
It sounds like you're a very busy man. If someone could only remember one idea from your book, what should it be?
Well, I didn't quite get into it in this interview, but I do in my talk, and that is we come with the receipts. We show that the German U-boats made their way underneath the continent, and we have the actual reproductions of the German U-boat maps, as well as the directions that they're meant to follow in German with translation. And you see here the name Agartha. So they had mapped out their path under the ice to what the German U-boat captains were being steered towards, Agartha. And so I think the big takeaway from this book is that we have the evidence that the Germans had successfully routed their U-boat fleet to go into their bases under the ice. See, that's what really fooled the commanders during Operation High Jump. They thought they would have their bases above the ice, and maybe they had some outbuildings or minor buildings there, but really they were building the New Berlin, a city with the designs of Albert Speer, who wanted to redevelop the city of Berlin in Germany. Of course, they never got that opportunity, and Berlin got basically bombed to oblivion. But they brought all their maps and designs to Antarctica. And this is according to another Antarctica researcher named Tazinski. And I have his quote here at the beginning of the chapter of Nazis of Antarctica, where he says, well, the beginning is Hermann Oberith, but Tazinski says, the city of New Berlin was developed into the inner earth as part of German South Polar colony, were admitted by the inner earthlings to build a city there. They built most of the buildings that architect Albert Speer was planning to build in Berlin. They later established shoulder-to-shoulder cooperation with the Russians and Americans quietly of the Illuminati government. That is a huge, bold statement right there. So after that flyover of Washington, D.C., we realized they have the technology. We might have the numbers for an invasion force, but might be better to just work with them under the table. And that is how things kind of got away with the secrecy state. And part of all the secrecy of Area 51, of our backward engineering, all this technology,
Yeah.
is that all the while, the Antarctica Germans, they don't like to be called Nazis anymore, but
No.
they have been living multi-generations in New Berlin, in this city under the ice in Antarctica. So I think that's really the big core secret. And that's why the NSA is in McMurdo, is at the South Pole Station, and they are protecting the core secret. That is the hole in the ice that goes down to the domain of the Ariane and also the New Berlin base. That's where they're at, right near the South Pole. And ever since New Schwabenland, when they were flying over the South Pole, they discovered it. The Germans also found that hole in the ice and went down there, and they could take their submarines. You could go down the road that Brian S. described, or it's big enough that you could just fly your plane right into it. And they've been there ever since.
If you could go back to Antarctica again, what would you do differently?
Well, I'd fly in for one, fly over the Drake Passage, but I'd like to go down there with a film crew, and if they would give us permission to go explore that area where the hole in the ice is, like Prince Harry got to do.
Yeah.
And to report on it.
Yeah, that would be something to do if you could get permission to do it.
Yeah. Yep. But in this age of soon to be disclosure of ETs, why not disclose what's going on in Antarctica too?
Do you think it will happen this year then?
Yeah.
Disclosure.
This summer is when Trump is set to give this speech that's already pre-written, that his son Eric Trump's wife already said he's got the speech ready to go.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's going to change a lot of things then.
Oh yeah. Big time.
There are going to be some countries panicking.
Maybe. Global elites might be panicking too. Well, they kind of already are with the release of these new Epstein files, which are
oh my God, they're never ending. They are
never ending, and they're still.
I think there's more people going to come out of that as well.
Yeah. Oh, a lot of people.
But the problem is, Trump's got the say on that as well, hasn't he?
Yes, he does, but he's also implicated in them as well.
I think he is as well.
Yeah.
But we'll just wait and see what happens. What comes of that.
Yep.
So yeah. Where do you fancy going next then on your adventures?
Oh, well, just got a whole bunch of conferences that I'm committed to going to this year. And then, yeah, when I'm in Bosnia for the Bosnian conference, I think I'll take a week afterwards and go out to Croatia and check out the Dalmatian coast. I've never been there before.
No.
Check out those cities like Split and Zagreb, all those cool cities.
I reckon there's beautiful places to go.
Really are. Yeah, sure are.
And yeah, I'd love to go to Croatia myself.
Come on out for the Bosnian Pyramid Conference. We'll do a trip afterwards. It's
sounds interesting. And when's that then, Brad?
That is June 14 through 21 in Visoko, Bosnia Herzegovina. Let's see if I can put it in the private chat. Maybe you'll be able to send it out to everybody else.
I will do, yeah. No problem. Yeah, sounds good, that does.
Trying to put it in our chat, but it doesn't look like it's going to take.
No.
Nope.
Sometimes it does let you, and sometimes it really doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, thank you for coming on the show. It's been very interesting.
Yeah. My pleasure.
Yeah. I won't leave it as long as next time, but It depends when you get your next book out.
Yeah, right. Well, we could do another wrap up conversation after I get back from Germany and Bosnia. So
Yes,
maybe
that's a good idea. Yeah,
end of June,
yeah,
early July.
yeah. We could do. Yeah, yeah. I'll give you some dates for when you get back, and see if I can fit you in.
Okay.
That sounds very good indeed. Yeah. My guest on Friday is it's Ron Moorhead on Friday. Bigfoot. Yeah, he's a really nice guy as well. But it's ages since he's been on the show as well. I bet it's 4 years at least since he was last on. Well, thank you again, Brad. It's been very interesting talking about Antarctica and especially your new book.
Yeah, well, absolutely. My pleasure, Bob. Always great to talk to you, and thanks for having me on. And yeah, we'll do another wrap up. I'll tell you how well it was received when I talk about the U-boats under the ice in Germany in May.
Oh, God. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I like that. See how it goes there.
See how it goes.